the original promos for the Mountie. I heard a story that you told about somebody. It was a couple arriving when you were with the horse, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, say that again. Now, I'm trying to understand your question.
Yeah, when you were recording the promos for the Mountie with the horse, the original one.
Oh yeah, with the horse. I thought you said with the heart. No, with the horse. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, that was amazing. That was amazing. Yeah. I'll tell you, that was a classic. When we first start doing this new character, the Mountie, we had at the time we had vignettes. So they'd put the vignettes on TV, like little promos before you come in the territory with your character. They would introduce you like worldwide. Just say this, hey, you know me. You'd have Jesse the Body Ventura by the ringside with Mean Gene, and they'd say, hey, you know Mean Gene coming to the WWF soon as the Mountie from Canada. And then they'd show a little promo. And so they came to film a couple of promos with the horse. And so it was amazing. I'm in a park here in Montebello, not too far from my home. So we got this guy in his car with his girlfriend that pulls up beside me. I'm on the horse. I'm sitting on the horse there in the middle of the park. And this guy, there's two Americans actually that they're lost. And they don't know how to find their way back to the border. So he pulls up beside me and he puts his window down and he says, excuse me, officer. And I look down to him and I say, I'm not an officer, I'm the Mountie. So the guy looks at me like this, like, holy shit. He looks at his girlfriend like, holy shit, we got a winner here. So then he looks up to me, he says, excuse me, Mr. Mountie. He says, can you tell me how to get back to the USA? We're lost. So I'm looking at him from my horse. So I get off my horse real slowly. He's in the car looking through his window, and I tell him, I said, come here. So the guy looks at his girlfriend, and his girlfriend says, come on, get out. So the guy gets out. He was afraid of me. So I bring him to the front of my horse. And when I get to the front of my horse, I take the head of my horse like this in my hand, and I put the head up. I said, you see this part of my horse? It always points to Canada. Now come here. And then I bring him in the back of the horse, and I lift the tail of the horse, and you can see the horse's arse right in the camera. And I tell him, I say, you see this part of the horse? It always points to the United States. And then so the guy just looks at me, and he jumps in his car, and he just spins his wheels away, and he leaves. So I got to tell you, this is funny because my first 3 towns I started, when I went as the Mountie, there were it was like Nassau Coliseum. It was Philadelphia Spectrum and the Boston Gardens, like 3 of the wildest fans, the more patriotic fans. And I'll tell you, they didn't take my joke very funny. They were, I was throwing rocks coming into the buildings, and stuff like that. And I had to, for the first month, I had many times I had police escorts bring me in and out of the building, because they were afraid for my security. And so I guess the Mountie gimmick got over pretty good.
That's a great story.
The Mountie always gets his man. Yeah, it was funny. That's some good times with Big Boss Man too. That jailhouse match was absolutely amazing. That whole build up for a year of me beating all the baby faces and him beating all the heels, and then coming to the main event, co-main event with Hulk at SummerSlam at the Madison Square Gardens, where they put me in that paddy wagon and they sent me to spend the night in jail. I hear so much about it, even 30 years later, it's people come up to me and they, how was the leather with the leather guy there? Because there was a guy with leather that was in my cell with me at the end, and he was gay. So it was like, how was that night, And so people really enjoyed that feud we had, me and Bossman.
Is it more of has it been enhanced over time, the issues that Titan Sports had with the RCMP over the gimmick? Is it true that there was a cease and desist letter and all that legal jazz issued?
Yeah. My gimmick would have lasted a lot longer. I was the shortest lived Intercontinental Champion. I won it from Bret the Hitman Hart. Then 3 days later, I lost it to Piper. but it's funny. But the Mountie gimmick was so hot that the real Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they took an injunction against WWF. They said, we don't want to see that character on TV anymore. And so they banned me from TV. But in those days, what they didn't realize is all the TV tapings that we were doing, like in the States or everywhere, they only do one TV tapings, and they send that TV out to different countries all around the world. So by not being allowed to wrestle as the Mountie, I couldn't do tapings where I had to cut my sleeves off, you know, and I had to, when I come to Canada, I was Jacques Rougeau. It wasn't the Mountie anymore. And so they really hurt me, the Mounties. And it's funny because over the years, I always, when I see a Mountie, they love, all the Mounties, they love me to death. It's the high office that didn't like me, but the Mounties, they were so proud. They loved the Mountie. Boy, they were happy. And it's funny because I always finished by telling them, you know, hey, you should tell your boss there, the big top Mountie, to get off his high horse there, you know, like it was an expression, but get off his high horse. Like, hey, this is only a character. Like so many times you see in movies where there's dirty cops and there's, you know, it's entertainment. That's all it is, you know, so they shouldn't have took it so personally, but the Royal Canadian Mounted Police had a very, very big self-esteem of themselves. They thought they were really over and top of everything in the law, but over the years they got cooled down with a few bad things that happened with the Mounties there, but they didn't look so good. So I think if it would have come out now, it wouldn't be so bad. You know, they're not so perfect anymore with their image. But in those days, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were just like, you know, we have an image and nobody's going to touch it. And you know, it's funny because I was in Winnipeg working this summer for a federation down there, and I went to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police headquarters, and it was so funny because I wanted to buy myself some boots that I had there before, you know, and my shirt, you know, a shirt, because I do Comic Cons and my shirts are getting old. I still have them. I still have my coat, but it's a little torn up there a bit. And you know, you're not allowed to buy any gear of the Mounties. You can't buy anything like in their suits. It's like, okay, you know, I came in there and I went to the shop and everything and said, no, you could look, but you can't buy. And I said, well, what do you mean I can't buy? No, you're not allowed to buy. You're not allowed. They don't sell the Mountie gear or the Mountie suits. It's like, and I'm saying to myself, you know, oh well.
It's too bad they took that approach, because I think your character did more for recruitment than anybody, and really put the Mounties over by being in such a prominent, strong role. But you're right. The sense of humor wasn't there back in the day.
No, and it's funny because it seemed like Vince was a little pissed off at that, because I remember going to, I think it was London, where they have the palace there, where they have the soldiers in front of the palace that can't smile or can't, is that in
Buckingham
London?
Palace.
Yeah, Buckingham Palace. So we went to film a segment there where I'm dressed up as the Mountie, and I go right in front of them, and me and Jimmy Hart, and we're trying to make them smile or something, you know. But that was funny. I enjoyed that very much, and it's so funny because there's I can't remember what the deal was. Oh yeah, I was chasing a bird. With my stick there, you know, and right in front of the Mountie. Well, not the Mountie, but however they call them there at the palace. What do they call those guys? They're not Mounties. They're
I can't remember what their name is, but
yeah,
I know the guy.
But
Palace
anyway,
guards, I think.
So anyway, so I was running after a bird with my zap stick in front of them, and they wouldn't even move. Like they wouldn't even save the bird. Anyway, so but that was funny. I enjoyed that very much, actually.
Was that around the time of SummerSlam '92? Because I know you worked at that in a dark match.
Yes, it had to be 91, 92, because that's the only time the Mountie existed, in 91, 92, when I first started. 91 vignettes in 92, and yeah, and you know, the fun part is a place that I used to love to go with Jimmy Hart was in the Underground in London. You know, they have shops underground. And then there was so many bootleggers there. Like, you know, they'd have some shops where they were selling illegal pictures and frames of wrestling, and I saw one that was absolutely so tremendous. It was like a big one, like, you know, maybe 2-3 feet by 4 feet, and it was huge. And there was all the talent, but the great talent then, like, you know, Macho Man, Hulk, the Giant, you know, all the big superstars were on there, and the biggest two was me and Bret Hart in front of each other, like, you know, facing each other, and all the other ones were a little smaller in the back. And you know, I told Jimmy, I said, Jesus, I got to bring this to show my kids. Like, you know, this is amazing. The Mountie, you know, in London, you know, being over like that. But I remember working with Randy Savage for his title in London. So the Mountie was over very strong in Europe, maybe because of the costume.